thanks everybody for coming, and welcome to the January 2022 meeting of the Library Marketing Book Club. We're in our third calendar year. We haven't been 3 years, but we started this in 2020. So very cool that it's 2022 and we're still going. So awesome to see, of course, familiar faces and some new names too. So very cool. So we will jump into the discussion of the book. So this month, and here I have some visual aids for the discussion. Let me see if we can do this. So did I share? Boom. Let me share my screen. Oh, host disabled. Oh, I am the host. Huh, that's weird. Okay, well, anyway, I don't have to share it. So the book this month was Nir Eyal's Indistractable, and it was a really cool book, a good one to start off the year with. Basic thesis of the book is that there are two states. So there is distraction, and contrary to what a lot of us and even the author previously thought, the opposite of distraction is not focus. The opposite of distraction is traction. So distraction pulls you away from the things that you want to do, and traction pulls you towards the things that you want to achieve. And there are external triggers that affect where you find yourself on that continuum, and there's internal triggers. So external triggers would be like phone alerts and prompts and emails popping up and those kind of things that might distract you from something. And internal triggers would be things like not comfortable with the situation, and how can I deal? A lot of it is how can I deal with that discomfort? So so if you haven't had a chance to read the book, those I highly recommend. I think it's a great book. It's a real quick read, I found. Takes maybe 2-3 hours. It wasn't too taxing. It was good to listen to, and author reads it, so that was good. And that is, a little overview of what the book's about. So we have some discussion questions that we can go through and talk about. And whether or not you read the book, you'll still be able to participate with the discussion questions because they're nice and open. And but first, anybody have any initial thoughts about the book that they want to share?
Let me get a microphone here. Here we go.
Yeah, I do that all the time, Stacy. Yeah, hey, Stacy.
Hi. Yeah, I've been out and about. I actually had this in my office for a couple months, and I was a bad librarian because I didn't check it out. When you sequester something around and then you call out sick and you're like, oh, I left that book that I never checked out in my office. But I apparently bookmarked chapter 25, which is about preventing distraction with identity packs.
Ah, yes, very cool.
It's an interesting chapter about, one, how to set that up for yourself, but also once you create that with yourself, you're able to kind of refocus your energy and change how you think about things.
Okay.
And it kind of shouted back to me about thinking about how people think about the library, how library myths exist, and then maybe teaching people how to think about, being a grad student or making that pact with yourself to do different things. So that's really interesting.
That's cool, Stacy. There was actually something that I made a note of. I think it was from on or around that chapter about identity. So if y'all remember, for those who read the book, there's a little part there about this Stanford study that was done. And what they did is they asked one group of people how important is it to you to vote? And then another group of people, they said, how important is it for you to be a voter? And the voter group had a huge difference, much more much higher voter turnout than the voter group. It was then the to vote group. So it was having that identity of being a voter made things much more likely. I thought it was really, really cool. And I thought that was something kind of like Stacy, like you did, something that you could actually that we could directly apply to our library marketing and how we talk about things. So, if we talk about it, I'm trying it with this campaign that I'm doing right now. So rather than saying, we have this group of people who signed up for an email list. So rather saying, thank you for signing up for the email list, I'm trying to talk about people as thank you for being an email list subscriber. So making them think like that's more with their identity as subscriber. And I think it could be very powerful. We're about to do some focus groups in thinking about people of, are you somebody who uses the library, or are you a library card holder or a library member, or however you want to talk about it. So I thought that was really neat. And yeah, it was something, it was talking about, the reason he was talking about in the book seemed to be more about like the perception of who we are, and that changes what we do, and that changes how we make decisions, which I think was great. But I thought it was a cool little extra ad. So we can take a look at our discussion questions that we put up there, and you know what? I will put this one in the chat so you can see it as you think about it, and we can talk about it. So the first question we wanted to talk about was this. And now my chat window is too small. Fun and play. So there's a chapter on fun and play. He mentioned it a couple times. Can free us from discomfort by helping us reimagine a seemingly boring or repetitive task. Think about something you do in your day-to-day life or work that isn't particularly engaging. How can you reimagine the task or add in a constraint to make it more interesting? So is there anything anybody does now that kind of turns something that maybe they didn't like to do or have a hard time getting through, that makes it more about play, makes it a little more playful? And playful doesn't actually have to be fun, but it can be fun. But anything that anybody can think of that how you do or could turn something that you maybe aren't so crazy about doing into something playful that makes it a little easier to digest.
I don't know if this is an example. Maybe it falls under a different category, but if I have something that I find I've been putting off or just can't get focused on or whatever, I will tell myself, okay, like I did it right before this meeting. So I looked at the clock and I'm on Central Time. So it was 1:30. I was like, we have the book club at 2. I need to finish one of my staff evaluations. And it's just one of those, it's in a form that on a portal. It's just like, you can tell by the way I'm talking about it. I just, I don't want to do it. Yeah. I mean, I'm more than happy to talk to my staff about how great they are. I just don't want to do the stupid form. But so I told myself, okay, you have 30 minutes. And in fact, I have to call her a word or she'll talk back to me, but I have an electronic device near me that will talk to me. Yes. And so I told her, we call her a word, which probably doesn't sound good. But anyway, so I had to tell her, in 25 minutes, remind me to go to the book club.
Yeah.
And so then what I did was I shut off Teams. I closed my Outlook. Like the only thing I had open was the form. And I had to give myself a pep talk, like, Kathy, you have your drink. You're fine. Do this for 25 minutes. Yeah. And
that's good.
And I got it done.
Hey.
Like I could check the box. And I don't know if anyone else has sort of gamify things or kind of do that reward behavior, or because there have been times when I would have looked at a chunk of 25 minutes and thought, there's really nothing of significance that I can get dark chocolate works too. Yes. As long as it's not near me until I get the reward. Yeah, like usually if I say, I've got 25 minutes before that next thing, I'll scroll through email. Like I'll do things, but I'll feel like that's not enough time to make progress on something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's definitely what, yeah, I like that a lot. And that is, yeah, something of trying to do that and trying to get away from it. It's a big part of the book is certainly about how to find ways to complete those things. And yeah, I mean, making it like, Christina, compete with yourself to see how fast you can get things done. So yeah, how fast can I get a rough draft done, or a newspaper or a paper you have to write? That's really cool. And I think about the same thing. Like sometimes I put things off like so long, and then when I actually do them, it takes no time. And I'm like, why did I wait so long? Because like somebody will send me something that I need to review and just like spell check and grammar check or whatever, and I put it off and I put it off and I put it off, and they keep reminding me about it, and then suddenly I'm like, finally, I'll do it. And I do it. It takes like 2 minutes. Like why did I wait so long when I could have gotten that done? And competing with yourself to see how fast get things done is cool, because that helps you understand how fast you can get things done. And yeah, the pressure of a deadline certainly helps. But setting, like Kathy said, like setting these self-imposed deadlines, like, okay, in 25 minutes from now, I'm going to see if I can get this done and do that. So that's really cool. Yeah. Anybody else have experiences that are similar?
If I really don't want to do something, I try to engage other people to help me, like make it a team thing. And,
Yes.
Sometimes you think, oh God, I can't do that. And then if you sit down and brainstorm a little bit and get some ideas flowing, it makes it a little more fun, and you get some fresh ideas, and it kind of rejuvenates. It helps me, at least, because I'm just a one person, one man band. So I need other people to chime in and give me ideas. So that works for me too. And chocolate too. We have a little bowl of candy right in front, and people come in all the time. I say, okay, when I get this done, then I can have a piece of candy. So it works.
Yeah. So, and yeah, that's a good idea. And yeah, and getting other people involved can make it fun, because you can come up with crazy ideas and throw out ideas and discard ideas, and then usually come up with something pretty cool. And Christina or somebody, Kara said, try to pair an unwelcome task with something you enjoy more. Kara, do you have an example of that? Or I don't know if you're able to get on the mic today. So but it'd be cool to hear an example. But yeah, I mean, obviously pairing something that you don't want to do with something fun can be a way. Like oh, we got there. Yeah, podcast while shelving or revising. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, is that I will walk around and do chores around the house while listening to books, listening to a podcast, listening to those things. Yeah, pairing those two together. Watch a game streamer while doing the dishes. Doing the dishes is a great time to get a lot of stuff done. Disney songs while looking at stats. That's a good one,
Brianna. That's a good one. I have a bunch of stats to go through. That's a good one.
I can give you an example of pairing something, and it has to do with working with stats, which I don't enjoy doing. And so at the end of every year, there's not enough chocolate in the world to help me analyze all of the data that I need to interpret for the year-end report. Incorporating it into learning something new at the same time really motivates me to do it. It means it takes me twice as long to do it, but I end up learning how. Well, for example, I was creating something in a dashboard, right? So how do I make a dashboard report of this? So I was learning that. At the same time, I was manipulating all of the data in the Excel spreadsheet that I needed to work with and hated doing, but I loved that I was learning how to do something new as well.
That's cool. I like
that.
It
took a lot longer, but it was fun.
But if you're getting it done, then,
Yeah,
you know, then if you're
exactly.
getting the task that you don't want done, as long as you're not avoiding the thing you really need to get done by doing the other thing, which is great. That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I like learning new stuff like that. And it's fun to put stuff in there. And if it helps you accomplish it, that's fantastic. There were some other good ones in the chat too. Let's see. Kirsten, most mundane tasks were right after lunch. Yeah. So you feel more productive doing the mundane stuff because you don't have to, give a lot of thought. Yeah. And definitely it wasn't as much in this book, but it's definitely been in other books where it talks about first thing today is when you want to get your most important tasks done and things like that. But that's a great idea, Kirsten, to get those done. And Christina, TikTok, setting a timer for 15 to 30 minute blocks, then 20 to 30 minutes off. That's a good way to try and get
I don't know
things
if you guys
together.
have seen that TikTok where I don't want to do the work today. You know, so that goes through my head every so often when I have to get something done.
Yeah, I'll have to find it. That sounds, it sounds familiar, but yeah.
You know what this kind of reminds me of, Chris?
Yeah, sure, Stacy. Yeah.
I read it over and over again, and it really triggered something. I had read Sana had posted a thing about procrastination and how it's primarily a problem of clarity. And whenever I find myself resisting doing certain like technical things, I think, it's because it's maybe new and I can't picture it in my head. And I'm so used to being able to do things like that. Muscle memory, that sort of thing. So I always remind myself now that I'm probably procrastinating because I can't picture how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Feel easy. And then I use that as a trigger to remind myself that I'm good at learning things quickly. I'm just not in that frame where I'm like motivating myself. So I flip this myself and I go, okay, you have an MIS, you can figure this out.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's kind of my reward. Like, hey, I could be my own cheerleader.
Yeah. A little bit similar to like Diane talking about learning something new while doing something, but yeah. And same thing, Stacy. It's like, it's the fear of the unknown of what is this going to be like, and sometimes just trying to get away from that and say, well, I'm not going to let that fear and that, and in the book talks about discomfort, and that discomfort distract me and let me take the path of lesser resistance to easier to do things like go through emails and do those kind of things. So so I think that was really good.
I found redoing my email list via a grounded theory approach foldering system that really made a huge difference to me, because I do the typical email categories that everybody says to do. It really mean anything to me until I actually figured out what words would trigger. I know what that category is, and it made that process so much faster. But people are like, why do you have like an email foldering list this big? I said, exactly. I know that word goes with that. And it made all the difference in the world to me to approach it that way.
Yeah. And getting a system that works for you is super important. I did like his suggestion about email, which was, do I need to, his were only two things. Do I need to answer it today, or do I need to answer it this week, or do I not need to answer it at all? And then that was the way that he put his into little 3 different buckets of, and then of course the urgent stuff that needs to be answered right now, just take care of right now. But yeah, I really was fascinated by the time boxing. I've always wanted to do time boxing. I don't, does anybody do? And if you didn't read the book or you're not familiar, time boxing is really scheduling every bit of your time, professional and personal.
The queen at it. I don't know if she's joined yet, but she in fact did a session for our team on time boxing about a year ago.
Wow.
And Yeah, so now my whole team does it. So it kind of cracks me up because when I try to schedule a meeting, I'm like, everyone's busy all day long. What is this all? And then I'm like, oh, then I have to look at the detail and I'm like, but what's good is we have kind of that pact with each other of, okay, so before I schedule that, I'm at least going to message you and say, hey, it looks like you have 2 hours blocked out for this. Is that something that's flexible or, can be moved? Because I have gotten some feedback when I've done that on my calendar that it's like, well, you're so hard to schedule with because everything is blocked. And yeah, Hannah, getting people to respect it. But then I also find if you're if all your days are time boxed, then people who don't really get it, I mean, then how does anyone ever schedule meetings with you? That's the balance that I still struggle with.
Yeah.
And I cheat on myself. Like I'll say, okay, this afternoon I got to watch some required training videos, so I'm going to slot that in, and then I'll find something better to do. And I don't always bump it like to the next day or something. And then sometimes I have to look through the week and go, oh, here's 3 things. And then where am I going to fit those in now? So, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work. So I don't know how if other people have been successful with managing. So not even just time boxing, but kind of managing that. Anyone have any tips on that?
Yeah. Does anybody have any ideas about how to manage time box or what happens when things don't get done? What happens when you cheat on your own schedule?
I found that just doing a kind of a hybrid for myself is what works. Because I try to go all in on time blocking and it just did not work. But I'm really fortunate that my workplace, it's sort of, there's a pattern for when meetings might be. And so like, there's typically times during the day where it's like meetings don't get scheduled in this time. And so I always know that like, I can block that out to be, like whichever kind of project or category, I guess. But I've just had to make it more broad where it's like, this is the chunk of time where I'm working on this type of project, whatever that current one is. And instead of trying to be like my partner's really strict about it. And I just like, his whole calendar is full and it's like from 9 o'clock to 9:15 is like his breakfast or whatever. And I'm just like, I can't go that far into it. So having an idea from my coworkers of like their regular patterns for like when something might be, then I know I can schedule stuff, but I can also leave it open for spontaneity or having some flexible time within there.
Yeah. That's a great point, Brianna. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, yeah, definitely there are probably levels of personality and behavior types that gravitate more toward, well, if I have everything scheduled but there's does seem to be something there. There definitely seems to be something. I mean, I've been playing around with the Microsoft 365 focus where it automatically schedules like 2-hour focus times every week. And I think that's good. Yeah. But Kathy, like you said, I totally cheat on that. And like, I instead of doing focused work, I get sucked into, oh, here's part of my focus work is looking at email. And it's really not. I really should be doing, bigger projects. But
yeah, I mean, Angela takes it to a whole new level by even adding color coding. So she can look at, so she can look at her month and say, wow, so much of my time was spent on whatever purple tasks are for her.
Yeah.
And just kind of get a visual of where she's spending her time as well. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So something that I shared in the chat, and I'll make sure that you get access to it after. I mean, it's one of the freebies. There's like 4 different freebies that come with the book. So this is the distraction tracker. So what you can do is you can go through like, a week or several days or whatever, and you can go through and see what you're doing at different times, what might be causing a distraction, and it can help you get a feel for what's going to work for you and what might be a challenge and what areas of what tasks or what types of things you might need to you might need to look at and adjust and be aware of and be more cognizant of. So it's a neat little tool that would be a fun thing that I have not done yet, but yeah. So couple other things in the chat. Yeah, hard to time box your personal time. Yeah, that can be tough. And there are, I think he's got some things, Nir has some things on his website that could help to do some time boxing. And Hannah, you found that it was helpful to you. Yeah, in your performance review. Yeah, that's a great time to pull it out and remember what you do. And yeah, I know when I do like a monthly report every month, what usually I end up doing is I go into like my sent email box, and that's where I'm seeing like, oh yeah, this, I remember I did this and I remember did that. It did okay, but that's great. It would be nice to do that. Yeah, Kathy, you can time box. You could time box 30 minutes for, yeah, you could time box 30 minutes for, call it urgent, or call it, I mean, you can box out 30 minutes to do whatever you want to do in that time. And if you say 30 minutes to just fall back into bad habits, or 30 minutes to he talks about 30 minutes for email, 30 minutes for social media, 30 minutes for whatever it is. So whatever's important to you to reach your goals, if it's important for you to handle those miscellaneous and sudden needs, and there's important for you to do that every day to kind of stop and grab everything, then it's definitely time to do that. So yeah. Yeah. Stacy, we can self-report. You can report to this group. We will evaluate your time boxing and how you did. So, so I think that's great. Yeah, this was really good. The next question that I had, which again, we probably talked about a little bit already, but this one is just getting it from my notes over to the chat. And so, yeah, so, oh, good to see you, Stacy. Thanks so much. We'll see you again soon. It's great to see you again. Distraction is inevitable at work. Even when you work from home. So a lot of us working from home at least sometime or different times. Everything from group chats to email to our phones can take us off course. I guess this is kind of what we were talking about. How will you make uninterrupted work a priority in your daily grind? So we may have covered that already with the time boxing discussion, but anything else anybody wants to talk about how to along the same lines on how to make uninterrupted work a priority. How do you do that, especially if you're in an environment that's maybe not so conducive to that, like home or open workspace? What kind of things do you do?
I am in an open area. I don't have a door or anything. So if I really need to concentrate, I'll go somewhere else where I can close the door where people don't know where I am. Can't find me.
When I worked at Chris's library, I used to hide in the room that's behind him in the picture. In the maps room.
Yeah, it's a good place to go. Nobody goes back there. So it's off limits to customers except by appointment. So and there's not a lot of staff there. So yeah, it's
and the door to it, like there's an entryway, a back door from our department.
Right. Yeah, right around the corner.
Sneak in there. Yeah.
But yeah, Mary, it's good.
It helps me just to get away and go somewhere else to focus. Yeah.
Yeah, that can be good. Anybody else have any other things? Anybody use any in the book? He talks about a few things like screen signs, or anybody use signs, or anybody use signals or things like that say, hey, I can't be bothered right now. I'm working on something. Anybody do anything like that?
When I have meetings,
Michelle, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. If I know I'm well staffed and I don't have to grab the desk, I will just say, I need to work on a project. My head's going to be down. My door's going to be closed. Just let me be.
Yeah.
Just to communicate that sometimes helps me focus better.
Yeah, it helps you give yourself the signal that it's time for you to focus, and it helps give everybody else the signal that you're not ignoring them, time for them to focus. So Kathy, you were saying too.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. What you were just saying about even having a signal to yourself. So I work from home. My husband's retired. We're in a very small house. So what I do, if like right now when I'm on this call, so if I'm in a meeting, but I also use it if I really need to focus, I shut the office door and I have a white noise machine.
Oh, yes.
That is right by the door. And I learned this from actually a doctor's office that had a common wall with a business office. I was like, why do you have a sound machine back here? They're like, because people on the other side of the wall could hear us. I was like, I never thought about doing that. So it's by the door so that I don't hear him rustling around in the kitchen or whatever he's doing that might distract me. And he doesn't hear me just by having that air machine on. And it's also like a cue to me that like, because it's white noise, so it's almost like having noise canceling earphones on. But even saying it out loud, I don't do it nearly as often as I probably should.
Well, it's good to make that part of maybe the routine of when, of even, during different times of making sure to do that. It's hard with all this stuff, isn't it? Because you want to do it regularly, but you don't want to make it so regular that it becomes not just white noise but noise, and it becomes something that doesn't help you anymore. I don't know if that is possible with that, but that's what I think about sometimes too, is some of these routines, you get into them, you start doing them, and then you kind of, it's hard to remember to do them and hard to make it kind of a signal. So he talked about there's an app called Chime that chimes on your phone every hour or every so often to let you know, oh, time for me to stop and see what I'm doing. And I think we also had that with one of our other books, talked about an hourly ding that lets you know kind of, what was this hour about? What did I get done? What do I have to do next? So, sometimes something like that, adding something like that might be good. So, yeah, very cool. Closing the door and pulling up the blinds. Yeah, Hannah, that would be a good signal. And do not disturb on Slack. So you guys use Slack? I didn't know how many libraries might have used Slack. I wasn't sure, but we use Teams. So it's kind of in Teams, they've kind of made it very similar. I have another thing about Slack that I'm curious about. Diane, you missed the interruptions and distractions that happen in the workplace. So it can be a big change when when the interruption makes you go back to the task. So you need a little break every once in a while. That's like a lot of people talk about that Pomodoro method. If you haven't heard, it's I think 20 or 25 minute stretches, and then you stop, and that way you can take a break and get something else done. Oh, Brianne, you have busy lights at your desk. They're different colors. That's cool. What do the different colors mean? I don't know if you're able to get online, but or get on the microphone, but if you can't, I'd be curious to know what the colors are for. That's really cool. Brianne, hey, yeah.
So green is we're available. Red is busy. Blinking red is you're on a call. And purple is do not disturb, but no one knows what the purple means.
What's the difference between red and purple? If purple is do not disturb and red is busy.
Busy, you can still kind of be disturbed.
Okay.
It's okay, but everyone disturbs me when I'm on purple.
That's funny. That's really good. It's a neat attempt. Keep it on red all day. Kathy says, and Diane code purple. Hannah points out too, COVID has helped, right? So COVID has kind of made it a little a little nicer in ways because people don't want to come around each other, so they don't bother each other. Sometimes it means more interruptions digitally than physically, but not getting the physical, yeah, I agree. That can be a big distraction, because that takes that takes different things. And Lori always disturbed, yeah. So yeah, it can be a challenge, but having some kind of signal is a neat way. And again, not that I'm plugging, this, it's all free with his book, but he has a little Indistractable sign, like I'm Indistractable right now. So if anybody needed something to try, you can get that from the book. So yeah, so very cool. And one other question that I had for us to talk about is, again, something we may have already talked on a little bit, but not quite specifically. So this one is: the internet, including social media, can be a content vortex. What habits would you like to cultivate to improve your current relationship with content consumption online? Anybody have any thoughts about if you get sucked away into YouTube, one recommended video after the next, or like Nir talks about, I'm doing research, so I need to go on the internet, and then you get just lost in this stream of all kinds of stuff. What kind of things might, what kind of habits might you want to look at to help you with that? And he had some suggestions in the book too. Nobody wants to do anything about that.
Maybe setting a timer. A lot of you are probably this way. Part of my job is to go on Facebook or Instagram to see what our customers are using our templates for, what they're creating. And sometimes I have a specific group of libraries that I'm looking at because maybe I'm doing a report for them or something like that. And that happened to me this morning. And man, it does become that black hole of, oh, this is really cute. Look what they made here. And then, oh, this is really, and then you keep scrolling and scrolling. And I had to tell myself, Kathy, you've gone back 6 months. Okay. You've got enough examples.
Right.
But, it's just, and then you see things like, what's really bad is I'll see like someone created a really fun post about their book club.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks like a good book. Well, I better go Google that and see if I can put it on hold at my library. And then I get into the whole TBR list, and then I'm like, wait, what was I doing? Oh, I was looking at, I'm probably not alone.
Yeah,
but
I would say yes.
The only
I
thing
would
I could
definitely
think of
feel the same.
is a time limit. But
time limits are great. Yeah, time
other
limits
ideas?
are great. There was a tech example in the book about something, I think it was called like Newsfeed Burner. There is a little plugin you can put on Facebook, so it at least cuts down on some of the other stuff that pops up in the newsfeed, like all the suggested and sponsored and those kind of things. So maybe it condenses a little bit. But yeah, timers are great, and yeah, it's a good way to make sure that you do your best to stay on time. But Hannah, you were at something that you were going to mention, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the nature of that part of all of our rules is to go onto social media and post. I often find that that's the time when I get most distracted, because I'll go post and then I'll start scrolling, kind of like Kathy was saying, being like, oh, well, I'll just look at what other libraries are doing or see what other UCSB accounts are doing. And then it kind of sucks you in. And all of a sudden I've read like 15 articles that I thought were interesting. But the problem is sometimes it does work in my favor. Like occasionally I've found like, oh, this other person on campus is doing something that I think our event person might find interesting, and then we end up collaborating. So it's very challenging to stop. I think, probably a timer is the best thing. Just like knowing that that's going to happen and letting it happen for like a limited amount of time.
Yeah. He talks about that too. Like, again, like time, time boxed if you're time boxed or if you're looking for that. But yeah, certain amount of time for social media for work and certain amount of time for social media for not work too. I mean, and that might help too. And I'm saying this like I'm doing this, totally not doing this. But I would like to, and I may try. If you had 30 minutes planned, like for, the end of the day or after the day for you to, or after your work time was over, to do like 30 minutes for social, I wonder if it might make you then, when you are going to Facebook and you start to feel yourself get sucked away, think, oh, let me put that in my later on social media time and let me get back to, because then that I have time to go through and do that. And he did mention this app, and I tried that app. He mentioned this app called Pocket, where you can take articles and you send them to the Pocket app, and then it aggregates them without all the ads and all the junk. Nice. And you can read them later. It was pretty neat. I tried it, but it was I never really got in the habit of it, but I thought it was okay. Lori?
I just was gonna I don't know why, but your reminder went to my Clutterfall, and I was so disappointed. Yeah.
That's
so,
no
new
good.
Year, new crap,
Oh no. That's not great at all.
Same stuff, different year. But anyway, I'll tell you one thing that really does keeps you on your toes is right now we're down one person. She's on leave, and we have another person that was called up on campus. Mm-hmm. So guess who's at the desk all the time? Sure. So I'll tell you what, it's just interruption, and that's okay. I mean, I'm here to help people. That's my main mission. So that doesn't bother me. But I think the other side of that is what I lose track of. What was I working on? In fact, today, I couldn't remember where I put the masks for a person who didn't have one. Oh. I'm in my office right now. Yeah. But it was under a book.
Oh, there you go. Good place for it. Yeah.
I mean, I love what I do. I do, but honest to Pete, when they short staff you, it just is not good.
It's tough. It's very tough. Yeah, it's very tough to manage. And yeah, definitely another thing in the book is about getting distracted, and then the distraction residue. That wasn't exactly the term that he talked about, but that time that it takes when you're distracted to get back to something, and then that can cause you to misplace things, lose things.
Where was, even mentally, where was I working on something?
Exactly.
Did I check that book for statistics? Did I do that already?
Yeah. It's all the more reason to try and implement some of these different behaviors that are recommended. And there's a lot of good ones. So yeah, definitely. So and yeah, Kathy, we can. So everybody who's on the call, you will get a copy in the email of the chat notes. So if you don't want to get distracted and look at anything that's on there now, you can look at it later and see what other kinds of articles and things are out there. Any other thoughts about the book? We've got still, good 13 minutes or so. Any other thoughts about the book, thoughts about distraction, questions about library marketing? We can always slide into good discussions about library marketing. Anybody having any challenges or any interesting or exciting things to report, or anything, about Indistractable?
One of the things I'm involved in with community outreach.
Sure.
We are working with Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts, and they are putting together the program and getting the speaker, which is nice because that's one of the hardest things, is those of us who do that know. Yeah. We're partnering with Carnegie Library Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. All our logos are on there. I'm putting together a bibliography. Our first one, the person from Carnegie Library took charge very nicely. She said, let's have it the same day every month for the next 4 months, certain time. And it just, that streamline in and of itself was a blessed thing. Yeah. And she had the stats to prove that it was worth doing it that way. That's and great. Not only that, they gave us flyers, individual flyers, but we said, give us a group flyer so that somebody knows, hey, the next one is the one I'm really interested in. That's the one I want to go to. we've helped them, Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts, to become a little more streamlined in how they promote their programs for our community outreach. So
yeah,
just,
that's great.
You know, those things, those little time savers are unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. Scheduling series, scheduling things ahead of time.
Yes.
Yeah, super, super helpful. Yeah.
And you already know, you don't have to meet every single month. Okay, what are we doing? We actually, in the first meeting, even decided the topics. The only thing that changes is who's coming to talk. So everything else is pretty straightforward as to what we're doing. So, oh my God, what a lifesaver that is.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
New for us. This is all new for us.
New for you. Cool. Great. Yeah. Yeah. Any other suggestions about that's one thing that we've encountered before is when you have a series of how to communicate it. And I think, I think showing people everything that they have coming up is good. Sometimes referring them to a web source that you can change in case things change can be good too.
We have an events page and whatever, and they can, it's all via Zoom for now.
Nice.
So they can register and whatever. And if something gets canceled for whatever reason, I would assume they could add that to Zoom and let people know as well.
Yeah,
so,
excellent.
In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because I've only done this once, that you can email the people that have registered.
Oh, sure.
There's a way to do that with Zoom. So that when I found out, I was like, thank you.
Yeah, if people are registering through Zoom, I
don't have to keep a list.
Yeah. Yeah. There were a couple other, anything else that anybody has to share? I do have a couple other things that I remembered now from the book that I wanted to just bring up. So two of them that I thought were really cool. One of them was, and Hannah in Slack, and they do this in Teams too. Now, Teams is trying to imitate what Slack does. They talk about having an AMA channel, like an Ask Me Anything channel. Do you all have channels like that in Slack where people do? Is that how Slack is, where you set up different discussions and different discussion topics and things like that? Or is it, how do you use Slack?
We don't have an AMA. I wish we did, but a lot of our admin are actually not really active on Slack. So for me, I use it a lot with like my direct report or close people that I'm not clogging up their emails. But we do have channels like a general library interest, and we have random things like library pets, which is my favorite channel. Like recipes, things to do. There's one that like the team that updates our website will put the notifications about this program's going to be down for 3 hours today, that kind of thing. So there's some useful ones. I did like that AMA idea. Unfortunately, I don't know that our admin will be convinced to get on there.
For maybe a year or two, we had our director used to take. He used to take any question. People could submit questions. They could submit them anonymously, which of course invited a lot of interesting topics and questions and discussions. I think he was okay with it, but it after a time it became probably sort of the same group of people saying sort of the same things over and over, and it became a little bit different. But I like the idea of like the AMA teams and if you have people that can that will actually engage and answer the questions and do that, that would be interesting. So the other thing was when somebody grabs a phone when you're in a meeting with them, or he was really talking about like in a sorry, I got a dog barking, in a conversation with friends, and a good response to that to get people to kind of change their behavior. Very sorry about the dog. Is saying, "Is everything okay?" And that way, it kind of alerts them, like, "Oh, yeah, this isn't an emergency. I can kind of put that away and don't have to use that." So anyway, I thought that was another pretty neat trick to get people to recognize some bad behaviors. Anything else anybody has to share? We've got about 7 minutes left. So Kathy?
I have a good friend kind of along the same lines you were saying about the bad behavior, who she'll be talking to me, but also looking at her phone, like scrolling or reading something or whatever. So annoying. And so I'll just say to her, I'll stop whatever I'm saying. And then if she doesn't look up, I'll just say, oh, just let me know when you're done, and then I'll continue. Yeah. And I just try to say it very pleasantly, even in my head, it's not very pleasant. But, I'll just try to say it like, oh, no worries. Whenever you're done with your message, we can get back to this. And 9 times out of 10, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Or, yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. I think, I wonder if, since we are, we're in this culture that kind of thrives on distraction, right? I mean, his whole first book about hooking people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're in this culture that's multitask and people constantly being distracted. That, and someone said it earlier about respecting the time boxing. I think it's the same thing with, I think we've lost, and I'm guilty of it. We may not respect those relationships enough, that conversation enough. He talked about what he did with his own daughter when they were playing a game, and I'll find myself talking to my husband about something and glancing down at my phone. I have to just constantly just catch myself and physically put the phone down and look at the person. So hard. And I think a lot of it is the environment we're in.
Yes.
I think we all feel, at least I do, just like we're in this whirling dervish of COVID, and just life just seems so kind of unmanageable at times, that it feels like it's just all distracting, really hard to focus.
Yes.
So I don't know if anyone can relate or has any help with that, but
my dog is starting to knock my hand away from the phone, so I'll pet him.
Oh wow, kind of like a toddler.
I've had him for 4 years. He's never done that. I'm like, I guess I need to put that down.
Yeah. And you're right, Kathy, with COVID. I mean, that now everything's like uncertain, and what's going to happen the next minute, and what is it going to be like? And yeah, it's definitely a world that has a new set of distractions, and a new set of, because it's mental distractions too, not just physical and time changes and schedule changes and things, but a lot of distraction. Hannah, you wrote, you appreciate that he acknowledged not all distractions a failure of the individual's part. Yeah, it can be systemic, it can be cultural. Sometimes we can change, and sometimes we can't, and we can accept and figure out, that's the way it is. And, we can do the best we can for ourselves, and the best with what's within our control, because not all external triggers are within our control. Not all internal triggers can be quickly and changed, but you do have the opportunity for it. So yeah, it was really nice that it wasn't like you're all awful because you're all getting so sucked in and distracted. Yeah, that was really good.
Can I tell you, Chris, real quick?
Yeah.
I ordered something. They sent me the wrong thing. I sent back an email to their customer service. She came back to me within maybe 10, 20 minutes. I couldn't believe it, for Blend Jet, if anybody's ordered one of those. They sent me the wrong packets. When she sent me back an email, she said, I am so sorry. We're sending you the ones that you wanted. I can go on and on, but at the bottom, she said, customer service hero.
No.
That was her title.
Very
interesting. You are a customer service hero. And I got the shipment has gone out already today.
Very nice. That's a very good story. Excellent story. Yeah.
I think we're all customer service heroes.
I think we can. We are, and we certainly can.
We try. We try very hard.
Yeah. And carry the intentionality, actions, and focus on the underlying causes. Yeah. Mindfulness. Yes. It's very, very aligned, very well aligned with mindfulness, and which is something that is becoming also very important. And like Kathy, you talk about COVID and everything else, but it's, how can we be more mindful about things we do? Well, this was a great discussion. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming today. Before we go, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how about Kathy, pick a number between 1 and 11.
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lori, you win a book for next. So you win a copy of the library book, unless you already have it, and then we can find a parlay for you to do it for a future
What's
book.
the new one coming?
So next month, our book is The Library Book by Susan Orlean. So again, we're not quite on marketing, but definitely, I think it's going to be a really good book to read. I read it a couple years ago. I think it's awesome, but it's a really good book talking about a lot of cool things, library, and a good fit for what we do. And I'm sure we'll find some great marketing and service ideas in there. So that will be February 22nd, and you'll get all the messages if you are on email. Thank you.
Go to Clutter.
That's right. Hopefully it doesn't go to Clutter. Yeah, make sure it's not going to your junk. Yeah. So thank you all so much. It was wonderful talking to everybody. I hope everybody's having a great new year, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.